Hi everyone, and welcome to the Play Plus YouTube channel. We are back for the new year after a little Christmas break.
We are back, yes.
We have jumped straight into, Jamie?
Yes, so we are going to be reviewing Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Card Game, which is a deck building game for 1 to 4 players.
Scott Pilgrim is a well-known film and comic book series. I think more people have seen the film. Certainly in the office have all seen and enjoyed the film. So we have a familiarity with the brand. I think Jamie is the most Scott Pilgrim fan.
Yeah, I like Scott Pilgrim.
If we were to grade you, if we were to grade all of us on a 1 to 10 scale, I think Jamie would be higher than the rest of us.
Yeah.
Which is great because it's nice to get a perspective from people who aren't huge fans, but just enjoy the world about whether or not the game works thematically. So here we go. You should probably reintroduce me.
Yes. So here's Rob with how to play Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Card Game.
Each player chooses a character from the Scott Pilgrim universe to play, and as a group, players decide which of the game's boss characters, the Evil Exes, they're going to be fighting. The game will end the moment anyone reaches the victory points on that Evil X card. They can also be defeated in combat for tons of points, but this might not end the game. The majority of the game's cards are formed into 2 decks, and a group of 10 of these are drawn by players to create the starting plotline of all the available cards that you can buy. Each player also takes their starting deck and draws 5 cards for their starting hand. Every single turn, a player can choose to eliminate cards from one of these 2 main decks, removing it from the game entirely. And then, using their starter deck, players are able to buy cards from the plotline with resources. These cards go straight into their discard pile and will be added to their deck for future turns. After a round of buying cards, players may also choose to complete a challenge. These challenges represent anything from fights to making friends, but you're always going to be using the game's combat cards to resolve them. In combat, you have to reach a number greater than the number on the challenge card. You'll draw another 5 cards at this stage and use them to try and defeat the challenge. Individual combat cards usually do 1 damage, but if you can match the button combos for your character, you can end up doing high damage with just a few cards. Victory in challenges normally involves you drawing up to a larger number of cards next turn, or gaining one of the game's power-ups that will stay on the table and include victory points. Along with those regular cards, there's one more mechanic to mention, which is drama. Players may be forced to add this or choose to add this to your deck, and depending on the character that you have, that may be a good or a bad thing, as these cards can either improve your stats and your power, or actually be completely useless in the deck that you have. So those are the real basics of Scott Pilgrim's. It's a deck builder. You're going to be taking the plotline cards and adding them to your deck to build a powerful, stronger deck to do more attacks and eventually get more victory points to defeat that Evil X. So we're going to jump straight now into our analysis of this game. So, there are quite a lot of different mechanics in this game, and I think the first and major one that we talk about is that, unlike a lot of deck builders, you have two phases in every turn. I know that deck builders have the sort of normally there's a buying phase and there is a gaining, using your cards phase and getting that to gain resources. In Scott Pilgrim, you have a buying phase and you have then a fighting phase, and they're completely separate. You draw an entirely new deck each time. So you're trying to buy and use the special cards at the same time, which is cool. And then you're trying to fight with your different combinations of buttons after that, if you want to. You don't have to. But what that means by default is that I feel like every round of Scott Pilgrim was probably a good 33 to 50% longer than a normal card drafting game.
Yeah, for sure. I really felt that I was having really long goes compared to other players, and that must have kind of sucked for you guys.
Well, and it wasn't your fault, because you were, like in a good deck builder, you're chaining stuff, right? So you get a few good cards.
There's a lot of combos you can do in this.
There's a lot of variety overall, isn't there?
Yeah.
You can go a certain way with different characters. There are so many cards. Yeah. And they are, as far as I was aware, they were all unique.
And they're all double-sided. So every single card has sort of 2 ways that you can use it.
The problem is it was just a struggle to get into it. The rules were not great.
We did have issues.
What was it where we had a situation where we didn't know what to do after we took a card from that plot line. So there's 10 cards. You take the cards that you want. No, at no point in the rules does it say replenish it. It's obvious that you would do, of course, but you can't know that.
And even in the rulebook, there's some weird positioning of rules. So even after it's explained how the game ends, it's introducing new mechanics to you that probably should have been brought up a little bit earlier.
That was the mechanic that was there. It was like phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then ending the game, and then 2 pages later there was a thing saying,
we forgot to mention.
Put the cards back.
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim card game What's going on?
Yes, I was gonna say. When you have to Google the name of the game and when to draw cards in a deck builder, the rules have fallen apart a little bit.
And also, if out of 4 people who play games, really, none of us are really like, oh, I get it, and having to explain it to the rest of them. Because that's normally what happens. At least one person.
I get the main concept. It's just we need to be like the specifics just seem to be left out, like the basics. The other mechanic that I wanted to talk about is just that there's a slight element of player interaction. I'm not sure I'd even call it that. Like, so when you put a fight card down, we didn't mention this in the rules bit. When you put a fight card down, you have to get the number of the combat token.
Yes.
But you also have the player on your left draw cards, and if they draw a drama card, the number of points they need to kill to get that challenge done is extra. There's more of it.
So if you have a person to your left who like really is into drama, characters like Wallace, you're in a bit of trouble. Whereas if you have Ramona to your left who doesn't care about drama at all, you've kind of got a bit of an advantage.
Yeah.
And that was completely luck-based, who you were sat next to.
It was, especially when you're in your first few games where you don't understand all the mechanics. But what we found was, what I found was it was nice to have a little bit more player interaction than you do sometimes get from these types of games. But at the same time, it was also a little bit too, like, you couldn't really do much about it.
No.
Like, I had to draw my cards for your fight, and I'd hope to draw cards that would screw you over, okay? But I didn't have a choice around that. Very occasionally, you'll get a card that lets you give someone a card they don't want or take a card from them. It's not too common, but it's an interesting mechanic. I just felt like if you're going to have that player interaction bit in there, either make it more in-depth or remove it. And I think that's my core problem with this game. It's either have complexity and make it really, really in-depth and interested on a mechanical level, or remove some of that stuff and make it a bit simpler. There are so many little bits of mechanics that I just don't think made the game any more enjoyable.
But you also hit number 1, so 2. Why do I hit them? They use you to hit them.
Oh, that's not. You can't be a card. I can't be. What? I can't be your friend and also be me.
Yes, you can.
He's got Scott Pilgrim as a friend, but I'm Scott Pilgrim and I'm right here.
Well,
I think you're his friend.
Daniel lost.
That was fantastic. So what do I lose now?
You draw 5, but you have to get rid of 1 straight up.
However, when it comes to the theme of this game, I think you would struggle to find a game that is more true to its brand and license. This game, if you like Scott Pilgrim, you're in for a treat. Obviously, all of the cards are double-sided and it features beautiful artwork from the comic books, and all of the characters feel true to their comic book personas. So I said that I played as Ramona quite a bit, and it made sense that Ramona, she doesn't want drama, she wants to work, and she's into a little bit of romance. And so I just followed that plan, and that kind of gave me, or it encouraged me to make certain moves.
Yeah, I did like, you mentioned in the game that you got a new friend and you had to add drama to your deck because of that.
Yeah,
so these drama cards,
that's cool.
They are the best type of use of having a waste card in a deck that I've seen in a deck builder, because they're the most fun. Like Dominion has, I forget what Dominion has, but Trains has like just trash. It's like, oh, I've got trash in my hand. It's okay, brilliant. The drama has multiple uses, and the really cool thing is that Ramona didn't want drama. Scott doesn't thrive on drama, but he can use drama to his advantage by taking drama cards, matching them with another card with an ability, and getting a bonus from it. So it's cool that some people need it, some people don't need it, which made made the players a little bit more interesting and unique. Yeah. And it made them feel a bit more like the people in the
Exactly.
In the show, right?
I really want to replay this game and try different characters, try different strategies to achieve success.
This one, which is worth 1, you may eliminate. I draw 1 card, and I may eliminate 1 card from the plot line. I will eliminate. Jamie uses his green ones, so I guess I'll do
you absolute
nice.
prick. I really wanted that.
I also wanted that.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
I've never seen you use the green blobbies, though. Whatever those are, work, I think.
No, but I wanted it because of something else.
Okay. Draw 1 card, you may eliminate, so I've done that. And the highest praise I can give the theme is that while playing it, it made me want to go and read the graphic novels. Actually sit down and properly read them, because my biggest memories were of the film. I wasn't a huge fan of the casting of the film, and although I enjoyed the overall story, it didn't make me want to go and read the graphic novels there. This game and the artwork on here, which I think is taken directly from
it's directly from the comic books.
Made me want to go and play it, which is, it's the highest praise that I could give a game thematically.
Yeah, and this game, it really feels like Scott Pilgrim. You're going to be doing boss fights against evil landlords. You're going to be trying to overcome awkward conversations or attacking giant robots. There's a lot of variety here, and it's just fun because you can almost... Each of the cards looks almost like a comic book or comic book... what are they called?
Panels.
Panels. That's the one. And when you slot them together, it kind of tells a little story. So I did this, then this happened, then I got beaten up by a dinosaur or something.
Yeah, I really like that. And the manual does say, this can encourage storytelling. You can, if you want to play like this, like tell the story that your life that's happened to your life, which is cool. It would never work in a 4-player game because of the amount of time those turns take.
Yes.
It would take like it says 35-40 minutes on the box. It would take more like 5 hours. But in a 2-player game, I think that would work quite well if you're really into that world because the cards make it really easy to do it.
Yeah, they do.
We challenged Jamie to do it and he didn't do a terrible job. So that's proof enough for me that it does work.
If I can do it, yeah.
So where we are right now then is that I find that it's overly complicated in a lot of ways, but can be enjoyable, that some of the mechanics are really cool, some of them feel a little bit undervalued for the amount of complexity they give to it. And Jamie, you really like the theme.
I love the theme. I think if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim, this is a lovely box to have and a lovely collection of cards.
And that would be enough for us to say that we would recommend it to people that are fans. However, the game is pretty broken. And by broken, I mean there are cards that simply do not make sense. They do not work. They are wrong, completely wrong. And I don't just mean 1 or 2. There are over 10 cards that have been identified on Board Game Geek that, as in our copy that we have just bought from retail last month, are still completely wrong. We found this out with the giant robot card.
We did.
Where you were fighting a giant robot and it just said, have these points. And there were no points.
And there was no points. It didn't give me a number of points. And this is really bad. This is not a cheap game. I appreciate a lot of work has been put into the artwork and things, but we came across one of these misprints in our first game.
The first ever game, we were all happened to be on Board Game Geek and looking into why a card didn't make sense. And it missed out victory points on a card in a game where you win by having victory points. It wasn't a typo, which you see sometimes, and it wasn't told, we didn't even know about it. That was the other thing that sort of frustrated us, is a lot of time when these prints happen and things go wrong, you get an errata in the box that says, oh, this is wrong, but here's how to fix it. And that's still annoying, but it's the nature of having to make and print physical copies of these games. There's nothing like that. If you buy a Scott Pilgrim game from any retailer tomorrow, you won't see on the site that it says that 10 of the cards are broken, but they will be in the boxes that you buy because there hasn't been a reprint of this game yet. That's not on. I don't know exactly how Renegade are fixing it. There's nothing on their homepage that mentions exactly what they're going to do, but there are some Board Game Geek threads talking about it. But for so many cards to be wrong, it's just, for a £45 game, it's just something that we wouldn't be able to recommend.
It just kills it, unfortunately. There was a lot of potential here. This game... It is fun and it feels like Scott Pilgrim, but if it's broken, can you recommend a broken product?
And the answer is, at Player Plus, is that we never will.
It's lovely. I really like it. I want to play it more. But if I did play it again, I'd probably stumble across broken cards. And
yeah, I would. If you like the sound of the game, if you are a big Scott Pilgrim fan, I don't think there's any way you couldn't enjoy this.
No. Unless
you are really worried about the turn length. However, we would say wait for a reprint. And don't even buy the reprint straight away. Wait to find out if the reprint has actually fixed all of those errors before picking this one up. So, not the most positive review of the new year.
But it had a lot of good things in it.
It did. So, thank you very much for watching. I hope that helped inform your decision of picking up Scott Pilgrim. And please like, comment and subscribe for more videos.
It would be excellent if you could do that. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.